This episode of the Kill by Kill podcast is brought to you in part by Scream 6. That's right, you can buy Scream 6 on digital now. Ghostface is back and more terrifying than ever as his bloody rampage cuts to the core of the Big Apple. Melissa Barrera, Jenny Ortega, and Courtney Cox star in the sensational slasher hit Scream 6, directed by Matt Bettinelli, Open, and Tyler Gillette. Plus, you get over an hour of killer bonus content when you buy Scream 6 on digital today. It's available at participating retailers and rated R. Of course, you know that Scream 6 is Kill by Kill approved, and we have a few select copies to give to our listeners. Just email us at killbykillpod@gmail.com. That's killbykillpod@gmail.com with Scream 6 in the subject line for your chance to grab a free digital code. And now, the body count continues. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dying time is here. That's right, we're talking about Cocaine Bear for Animal Attacks April on Kill by Kill. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. It's your old pal, Patrick Hamilton, coming to you once again from Blood Mountain. This is the Kill by Kill podcast, where we're dedicated to celebrating the least discussed component of any horror film, the characters. We're going to unpack all the gory details of 2023's Cocaine Bear in the hopes that a cocaine dealer's untimely end is just the beginning of the jokes we might make at their expense. And as always, there's only one person to trust to pull that knife out of my back already. The one, the only, Gina Radcliffe. How are you doing today, Gina?
I thought you were going to say to try to rescue you in an ambulance from a rampaging bear.
I don't know that anyone can be rescued out of that ambulance. That is...
it's so good. It's so good.
It is the highlight. Let's... and that's in the trailer, so it's not a huge spoiler
Not
or anything.
entirely.
Yeah. But let's do a quick spoiler-free section here for those who haven't had the chance to see it yet, because it is a relatively new movie. I believe it came out in February. It's now on Peacock. It's available for you to watch at home if you didn't catch it in the theater. But just in case, if you need your appetite whetted, let's just have a quick spoiler-free thing, as we are wont to do here on the program. So what are your spoiler-free thoughts on the one, the only Cocaine Bear?
You know what? I keep saying this to people, talking about how, it's getting somewhat negative reviews.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't know what people are complaining about, because this movie, for being called Cocaine Bear, this movie has an ample amount of both cocaine and bear.
Yes.
So I'm not sure what people want from it.
I think, writing the line between horror and comedy is this great, it's a difficult tightrope to walk, right? And everyone's, the holy grail in this is the Stay Tuned classic, An American Werewolf in London. And it's just really hard to do that. You have to come at it with a very specific attitude and have the right material for it. And for me, this is a real B to B plus effort in that. I think there's lots of funny characters. I think the stakes are very high. I think they peppered it with funny situations. I do think it gets a little bogged down in its second act, where it becomes more of a crime movie than a Cocaine Bear movie. And that's where I think people get a little wonky on it, in my opinion, or they just don't cotton to the humor. And there's just nothing you can do about that. Comedy is one of those things that a joke either appeals to you or it does not. And, that is in the eye of the beholder.
I mean, that whole ambulance sequence, I've just had this dumbest grin on my face the whole time.
Right. It's just 5 full minutes of what I think this is really aiming for the entire time, which is a heightened Coen Brothers-esque romp with an animal attack movie grafted onto it.
Right. You've got this very cartoonish level gore where, like, someone, like, gets their, I guess he gets his hand clawed or something like that, and it's like kind of hanging off of his arm, and it's just, and like somebody else falls out of a back of an ambulance and like skids down a highway on their face. It's just like one of those things. It's just comical.
It is Grand Guignol, level of gore, and an animal attack movie and a comedy with legitimate actors who are doing really funny work throughout this. And yeah, I don't know what necessarily people expected, whether they thought it would be ambulance chase level of comedy throughout the film. I think that's really hard to maintain. Maybe it's the expectation level of setting your sights that high and just not letting that be a crescendo rather than, oh, this is the statement that the entire movie is going to be this. Because no movie can be that. That's just kind of wild to expect the entire film to be at that level of crazy. It's plenty crazy. It's got funny characters. It's got gore galore. And for me, it absolutely, while it was not a smash success, it's a success. This is a fun fucking time.
It is a lot of fun. And I think that if it suffers anywhere for me, is it's probably got a little too many characters, but at the same time, I feel that's kind of, intentional in reflecting of disaster movies. Disaster movies always have gigantic casts that you basically see get picked off one by one.
Because I think the appeal here for all involved is that they want you to at least know a person before they get their face swiped off, which is a benefit. I think there's a studying of the game in this film that I feel like, you have writers, and certainly Lord and Miller have a very specific tone that they're going for. And I think they pretty much achieve it. Results vary here and there, but I think they're delivering a very specific type of animal attack movie, and they really aim for that at all times, with one major exception, and it works for me for the most part. And I think people are genuinely redeemed in this film in terms of my opinion of them maybe going into it and then my opinion of them coming out of it.
I mean, my favorite character in the movie, unfortunately, ultimately gets not a whole lot to do, and that's Isaiah Washington's character. Mostly because I do like when he is stuck on the gazebo and is trying to get down. And just he's like, oh, these little like noises he's making while he's trying to figure out how he's gonna get off the roof of this gazebo. I don't know why. I just really related to that. And well, I won't give anything away, but I wish his character had been given a little more to do.
Yeah. My favorite is Aaron Reich. I think he is.
Oh yeah, he and O'Shea Jackson. They're basically in a buddy, like a buddy comedy.
But don't you feel like at the core of this is Lord and Miller going, this is why we cast this guy as Han Solo. That he's funny.
No, yeah,
Let him be
very
fucking funny.
He's funny while being very deadpan, and it's and it can still be charming at the same time.
They don't. I mourn for the movie that Solo could have been. It really kind of sucks.
You know what? And everything that is wrong with Solo is not his fault. I think that he did the very best he could. I don't think that he did a bad job at acting. I think he was just fine. But, I think he was just kind of, pushed through a lot of scenes and not given as much direction as he should have been given.
No, they ordered a Lord and Miller comedy that would take place in the Star Wars universe. And then the people in charge were like, but you can't do that to Han Solo, my beloved Han Solo. And you're like, but half the people who are going to go and end up seeing this movie are going to be up in arms that Harrison Ford has been put through a time machine and injected back into the film. So why worry about what Han Solo becomes in another fucking movie? They just couldn't get past that. And they shit canned the entire effort and just made an okay Star Wars movie after that. I think it's more okay than a complete tragedy. It's just that they fucked over what could have been a transcendent experience and something really elevated and interesting. And they made an uninteresting Don't Rock the Boat movie, and it suffered from those circumstances. And everything they have done around, with the exception of Solo, has been heightening ludicrous ideas. There's no reason that 21 Jump Street should work. There's no reason that Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs should work. There's no reason that Lego Movie should work. And you just have to trust the process at a certain point. That they take properties that have no business being funny movies and make funny movies out of them. And they got really fucking panicked and they walked away from it, and it suffers as a result.
Right. No, I agree. And I think that this is, again, if you are, I don't want to say you got to lower your expectations for a movie like this, but this is definitely one of those movies that reminds me that it doesn't take a lot for me to be entertained. and maybe that makes a bad film critic. If I come away from a movie thinking, yeah, that was a fun movie. Yeah, was it an Oscar winner? No. Was it, will I remember much this movie a year from now? Probably not.
Yeah.
But, did I have a good time watching? Absolutely. And I really don't think you could ask for more than that for a movie called Cocaine Bear.
The world needs programmers. Not every movie is an event. Some movies are just fun fucking movies, and the world needs that.
Right.
We cannot avoid it. And
not everything has to be capital I important.
Exactly. Whether that importance is this is going to win an Oscar, or that importance is this is the thing you've always dreamed of happening from your childhood. He-Man is now living and breathing and walking around, or whatever the fuck. Like, they always put the importance on this has to be an event. And that's it has not to be, what all movies are.
It has to be, even more important, that it has to be something that maybe can turn into a franchise. And I'm just saying, come on, man, give me a break.
Jesus,
it makes me honestly miss, and I hate to go into that, masturbatory, my childhood, our childhoods, blah, blah, blah. But I do miss those kind of mid-level movies that weren't Ghostbusters but weren't entirely flops either.
Right, yeah.
But like they would be on cable like every other minute. That this would be Beastmaster level on HBO, where no matter what time of day you turn it on, it's it's like, hey, Cocaine Bear's on.
Yeah, exactly. Cocaine Bear is a fun movie. At the end of the day, it's capital F fun. And I think Banks does a pretty good job of really finding a tone and maintaining it throughout. There's a real, fifth grade dick joke, thread that goes through it all, and it feels genuine. It doesn't feel like a put on. And, let's get into some of the details. And there's not much of a plot in this movie.
A bear takes cocaine and then eats a lot of people.
Is what it comes down to. It, quote unquote, based on a true story, in that they can claim that.
Obviously, it's been already established that the actual story is that the bear ate cocaine and died immediately.
Right.
It's a far less fun story.
Yeah, it's not as cool. But where I feel the movie, now we're going into spoiler territory, everybody, so you can pause it here and then download the episode over many times. You can probably
figure out what happens, though.
Yeah, I mean, listen, if you're at this point, like, I don't know, do I need to know the plot details? everything I'm going to tell you, it worked. It worked for me the second time I watched it too. So I saw this in a theater. I enjoyed the hell out of it. I watched it at home. I enjoyed the hell out of it. So we begin at the beginning. What a wonderful place to start, with a man named Thornton, who is our main transatlantic smuggler. He is dumping cocaine out of an airplane to the tune of Jane by Jefferson Starship.
Such a jam.
It is a jam. And I was like, is this the only Jefferson Starship song I genuinely like? I know other Jefferson Starship songs, but I don't really enjoy when they come on the radio. This is a jam.
It is.
He's dumping duffel bags of coke out of a plane. And what I believe is, I think the most believable death in the entire movie, he gets all the duffel bags out, straps on a parachute, prepares to jump out, cracks his head open, exiting the plane, and just falls to his death.
That's how I would go. I wouldn't even be able to get eaten by a bear. I would just do something like that.
No, I wholeheartedly believe that this is the most likely way I would die if I somehow convinced myself that I should go parachuting. And of course, it does kind of help that he's a famous star. You don't expect the other star's husband to show up in this with a mustache. But it's just nice to see them in wigs. It's just nice to see them in wigs again after so many seasons of The Americans. But cut to the following morning, where Olaf and his fiancée Elsa, which I have to believe is yet another inside joke here, are hiking in the trails along Blood Mountain.
Appropriately named.
They're planning a wedding. And was there a detail in your wedding that was a stickler? Like you felt like, if I don't get this right, bad things are going to happen?
Well, my marriage to my ex-husband, I had a very overbearing mother-in-law, so the whole experience was that basically just every little detail had to be negotiated, and had to have we had to have head-to-head meetings over everything. So that kind of overarching stress was there for the entire thing. So I felt this.
I knew for a fact that we were going to have to get married in Wisconsin simply because, well, my parents weren't going to contribute anything. Well, there was drama. And I just knew we were going to end up getting married in Wisconsin. And on top of that, married in Wisconsin in August. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to be sweating so hard. There's a level of humidity that I know my body cannot overcome. It cannot regulate within. It has to simply expel moisture through every pore of my body, from the tippity top of my head to the bottom of my feet. It becomes a human swamp machine. And that I dreaded. And then wonderfully, it was like 77 and 50% humidity for no particular reason. It was just a lovely fucking day. So that all turned out well. Plus, I was able to feed people who had never had fried cheese curds. And when they ate them and they're like, oh my God, I get it. I get Wisconsin now. I'm like, yeah, it's pretty nice.
Did you give out souvenir Patrick and Becky cheese head hats?
We did not. We did not have enough money for that. The souvenirs were memories that people would take home. We were quite
precious memories.
Precious mental images. For poor Olaf and Elsa, this thing that they're constantly debating about is the fact that Olaf has been chosen to, the one detail that he gets to decide upon is who will be the band, and he's decided his brother's band will play at their reception, and Elsa's like, yeah, but they suck, and he has to acknowledge that they kind of do. And that, to me, and the fact that he can process that and not hold that against her in any way, shape, or form tells me the kind of person that Olaf is, and that their relationship is pretty much built on trust.
So they're doomed from the start.
Yeah, there's no way A healthy, trusting couple who can hike together in the mountain regions with just a map and a compass. There's no way they're going to live through a movie called Cocaine Bear. And so they are at the overlook in the middle of nowhere, and they happen to spy this bear rubbing itself up against a tree. And when Olaf gets a camera out to take pictures, he notices that this bear is beating its own head against a tree. And I think this exposes one of the elements of Cocaine Bear that you're either going to be on board for or not. And that is, this is a 100% computer generated bear. He's never going to look real. He's never going to look perfect. He's never even really going to look good. But there's no fucking way you could do this with a real bear. So what is the fucking discussion here? There's no way you could put a real bear in these situations and have it actually do any of the things you need it to do. It's always going to be a computer bear. So my suggestion to everybody is touch grass. That's what this is. It's a computer bear, baby.
Yeah, the bear disembowels people. It swats people's hands off. You can't have a real bear that close to a person.
You just can't. You cannot. And we just a week ago we were talking about Day of the Animals, and you have Leslie Nielsen and his stunt double basically doing a slow dance with the bear. And that's as good as it's ever going to get. Like, Grizzly uses a puppet and a real bear that doesn't get near anybody. You just can't fucking do it with the real bear. So it's going to be a cartoon. Roll with it. All of this is made up. You came to a movie. You did not come to a documentary.
Yeah, we're not going to get into how people now view movies on social media, and how it requires apparently that you bring a fine-tooth comb with you,
right,
to pick at it like you're picking nits out of a second grader's hair, that everything that's quote unquote wrong with it. And it makes people incapable of enjoying a movie for just what it is anymore. Yeah. And it's infuriating to me. It is absolutely infuriating.
I agree. There's just really no point to it. I just simply wanted to address it, because if you're like, I can't get into it if it's a fucking CGI bear, then don't watch it.
Right. But if it was a situation where the bear and the person was never on screen at the same time, they'd be bitching about that too.
Yes, absolutely. Or that you could never fully realize, the demented levels that this bear gets up to. When we finally see this bear in full, there are two things we learn about Cocaine Bear. She's quote unquote demented, according to Elsa. And also she's lactating. So good for her. She's doing this on the go. She's a working mom.
She's a crunchy bear mom.
Yes.
Breast is best.
Yes. And despite Olaf's mantra that if it's a brown bear, you run, as black bear, you stand your ground, Elsa immediately runs for the hills. And so all he can do is just try to keep up with her. Sadly, this philosophy does not work out for Elsa. And she's torn apart by Cocaine Bear and loses a leg in the tussle. The leg flops right in front of the screen. Gore just pouring out of it. And this is what this movie is going to be. People are going to be torn apart by a CGI bear. You're either into it or you are not.
I have two questions for you.
Sure.
You mentioned the brown bear and black bear thing.
Yes.
I'm going to assume that in the wilds of Southern California, bears are not really a frequent issue. But you being an Eagle Scout, were you taught about proper bear resistance techniques?
Yes, and very specifically by my father, who did not grow up here. He grew up in Calgary, Alberta.
So he probably passed bear just going to school in the morning or something.
Yeah, he was just full of fucking bear stories. I have a really well-earned fear of bears based on the stories he would tell me, which included, my friend from fourth grade got, torn apart.
My God.
Jimmy down the street, was disemboweled by this grizzly, because he dealt with grizzlies. He tells a one particularly famous story in which he's going to his car and he had this like zippy little race car. And he goes up to, and he can kind of feel like he senses someone behind him, but he's not quite sure. And he's, because of how low the car was, he had to bend down to put his key into it to pop the door open. So his legs are straight. And the grizzly behind him pops the back of his knee. And as just a reflex, it just like bends real fast. And he dented his car.
Oh,
that's how
God.
much his leg popped. But because of that noise, the grizzly ran the other way.
Yikes.
You can tell, like, I can recite that story very easily. I don't need to prepare it. It's not in my notes. It's living in the hard drive of my brain.
It's
it hasn't
lingered there forever and ever. And my other question is, and before I ask, I will tell you I am not a cop. Mm-hmm. So you can tell me whatever you want. Mm-hmm. Have you ever tried cocaine?
Yes.
You have?
Yes, I have.
Okay. I have not mostly because remember Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Sure, yeah.
Remember like how he would react when someone would do the shaving a haircut knock? Mm-hmm. I am pretty sure that that's how it would be on cocaine, and I don't think anybody wants to see that.
Here's the thing about me. I obviously longtime listeners will know that I grew up Mormon. So I didn't really indulge in drugs and alcohol for a good 25 years of my life. Started with beer, went to alcohol, and then during the opening of the aforementioned Universal Studios Osaka, I was hanging out with a crew who were opening up the restaurant on the city walk that leads to the front gates, a restaurant that will go unnamed. But a part of this restaurant was that one of the owners was there, and he always flew everywhere with a case of his own wine. And the reason he did this was because he could hide cocaine in it. So yes, I did cocaine before I smoked any weed. I went directly to, well, I thought I was going to get laid that night. And guess what? I did not. I got laid 2 nights after, but some of it was due to the fact that I thought I was going to get laid when I did cocaine in that bathroom. So, yeah, it did keep me up. It was a very long night. And the next morning I was late to the opening of the fucking theme park. That's right.
Which is the sole purpose of why you were there.
Yes, that's what I had spent the previous nearly 2 years working towards. But you know what? I prepared everybody. It was fine. No show occurred until 10 a.m. Everything's fine. But yeah, my head felt a kind of way. That's for damn sure. So yes, that's my cocaine story.
Your bear story and your cocaine story, appropriate for it.
Yeah, I mean, I've been around cocaine a whole bunch of times, but it's not something I've ever felt the need to go back to. It's not weed is right in my lane. Like, I don't have to worry about forgetting about things because I smoked too much weed because I was already forgetting things before I even started. So it's fine. Everything's cool, baby.
It's like, what brain is is left for it to rot? I mean, really, come on.
What am I saving it for? Like, what do I really need to remember when I'm 85? So, we cut to, at this point, Knoxville, Tennessee, where Thornton's body's landed with a thud on somebody's driveway. Because this is a Universal movie, they are able to use NBC nightly news footage of this actual incident. And this is where we meet Detective Bob Springs and Officer Reba Mitchell. And Bob instantly suspects that Thornton was running coke for a Missouri gangster named Sid White, played by the late, great Ray Liotta, wearing a Charlie's Angels wig.
Yeah, this is his final role.
Yes.
He when he is last seen in the movie, he's being disemboweled by bear cubs. Yes. And honestly, I think he would want it that way.
This is the way he would want to be remembered. I mean, he's fully committed to this particular role. He's perfect for it. This is a plus use of Ray Liotta. So honestly, he's in a movie. He's wearing a ludicrous fucking hairpiece on top of his head. And he looks like a person who would be a member of the quote unquote bluegrass conspiracy, which was also the name of my band in high school.
Yeah, that's some A+ casting right there.
Truly. I mean, it's the right person for the right job. We also learn that Detective Bob has been saddled with a small dog that he was pretty much convinced was going to be a large dog. He's very unsure about his relationship with this new dog that he has adopted and makes several calls throughout it to both check in on it and kind of hope that it's run away or someone else wants it. We then cut to St. Louis, Missouri proper, where a man named David meets with Sid to discuss Thornton's disappearance and the fact that Sid's son, Eddie, is in a grief spiral over the death of his wife. And this has saddled Sid with his grandson, Gabe, and he is not happy about it. He is a cocaine dealer by trade, not so much a doting grandfather.
No.
And the elements of this that you get about David is that he's very put together, right? He has brand new Air Jordans. He has very spiffy whites that he's wearing. He's not the person you would necessarily send on a hiking trip to pick up loose cocaine bales.
No, I feel like that's somebody you want your best man for that.
Yes. And I think David is Sid's best man in many, many respects. It's just that this one particular assignment is slightly outside of his skill set.
Yes.
I don't know where this is, but I guess Sid owns this. It's like a cover business. And it appears to be a Chuck E. Cheese knockoff that has these benches, round benches for people to sit at. But the stools are crappy looking toadstools. But it's also connected to a leprechaun as their main attraction, as like their logo, as it were. And I just don't. Do leprechauns and toadstools go together as themes?
I mean, I guess so. I definitely have seen images of leprechauns sitting on toadstools. They're all very small. So
they're very low. They're obviously meant for small children.
Unless they're confusing with Smurfs, I don't know.
Smurfs are definitely more associated with mushrooms and toadstools because they use them as houses and what I can only assume bars and brothels. I don't know all the details of Smurfs, but I assume they're constantly fucking.
Are you saying that the Smurfs engaged in sex trafficking?
I know for a fact that Smurfs engage in sex trafficking. How can there be so many Smurfs? And they don't need the one girl Smurf because there's plenty of fucking Smurfs before that. So they're either just fucking and creating more Smurfs without sort of a gender attachment to it. Males can give birth to other Smurfs.
Like seahorses?
Like seahorses, yeah. Sure.
Or they may just they may just reproduce by a little piece of them breaks off, drips away to a field and a new Smurf is born.
Exactly. I mean they all come with hats, but they don't all come with the same clothes. Any clothes item they have has to do with their very specific personality. They're fucking. You just tell. Smurfs be fucking.
This is probably it's probably good that neither of us regularly use cocaine. Or maybe we should regularly.
Or maybe we should. Cocaine. Maybe we're great at it and we just don't know.
We haven't reached our full potential.
It's true. Well, you know what? There's always the future. So now we cut to Carrie Russell, who's playing a mom named Sari? Sherry,
I think. She's basically just like tracksuit mom.
She has an accent here that I'm dubbing serious mom. Like, this is the thing about Carrie Russell. She has developed over the time. She has very much strived to be taken as a serious actress, as she should, and she's very, very good at it. But she also brings that, like, I need to be serious about this to Cocaine Bear. but only in the sense that she has to nail this one specific accent, or it's just not going to be right.
Yeah, she's for whatever reason, she's playing everything very straight.
Yes. And I think the movie does kind of need one person to take things seriously. And she is straddled, and we'll come to understand, well, we're in spoilers. Her kid's going to be lost in the fucking forest. That is serious. When she's not in that situation, she's also the kind of mom who puts ice in her Chardonnay. So, like, you get a lot of information about her very quickly.
Yes, exactly.
Her daughter, Dee Dee, is at that tweens level of sarcasm 24/7. Just hard, I don't take anything you say seriously level of tween. Something I know nothing about, Jaina.
Of course not. Of course not.
I mean, listen, I'm not going to complain about our child, but let's just say, just in the last 6 months, the level of tween we have been turning that knob, not me in particular, his hand on the dial. And this one goes to 11. His might go to 13 or 14.
just sneering at you and everything you love.
Yes. But also would like to participate in everything that we love. So it's a push me, pull you relationship. But we learn through her, Sari's interaction with her daughter, Dee Dee, that Dee Dee doesn't care for Sari's boyfriend, who's a pediatrician with a band. So my question to you is, which band do you think, based on no information other than their mere existence, which band sucks more? The pediatrician's band or Olaf's brothers band?
You know what? I think that by default, a band that is, playing wedding receptions is probably going to be pretty lousy.
Yeah. Yes. But the other thing is the pediatrician's band is in Nashville. So they're playing early 80s country, which is amongst the worst country that has ever existed in terms of music.
So they're playing a lot of like Kenny Rogers.
Yes.
They probably have a cover of "Looking for Love in All the Wrong Places." Brings the house down. A little bit of Devil Went Down. Little Devil Went Down to Georgia.
Elvira, that's happening at some point. Ugh, God, my dad used to listen to it because he at the time owned a recycling company, and I would be forced as child labor to go to these schools on Saturdays and load up trucks of empty cans and newspapers as part of this recycling thing. And oh my God, the amount of Elvira I listened to,
take this job.
It's terrible shit. It really is. At least what was being broadcast on the radio in Los Angeles. Maybe it was better in Alabama. Fuck if I know. Dee Dee's a bit of a music head herself, as we get to see a teenager's bedroom. This is everything we want. So on her walls, we get to see posters for Adam Ant, Depeche Mode, Madonna, Cyndi Lauper, Billy Idol, and best of all, a poster of a teen Jason Bateman holding a fucking football.
I would have been maybe a tap older than Dee Dee when this movie takes place. Not much. Then that sounds pretty close to what I would have had on my bedroom walls.
Well, I do feel like Depeche Mode is the one thing that's kind of out of step with that, because I don't really believe
they weren't getting a lot of radio play. Like maybe modern rock radio, but not pop radio. You definitely had to have MTV to get your exposure to Depeche Mode back then.
And even then, I don't think Just Can't Get Enough really breaks through here in the States the way it does in the UK. It's just one of those things that crept in a little bit later than this. Fine. It's fine. It's fucking fine. I don't come to Cocaine Bear for realism, even if it is based on a true story.
I come for Cocaine and Bear.
Yeah, those are the two things we're looking for. So then we meet Eddie, the aforementioned Eddie, who's played by Alden Ehrenreich. And he has memorialized his dead wife on a tattoo on his chest, only they've misspelled Joan as John. And he can't change it for 7 days. So it's 7 days of John. And I've made my case for Alton Ehrenreich here. I think this is a fucking brilliant performance. He is going super, super sad, but making it funny. Like the pain is there.
Right. He's like, everybody has that, you spending an evening with a friend who's just broken up with their partner and they're just morose. And like everything, reminds them of the person they just broken up with, and you want to be there for them at the same time that they're really aggravating at the same time.
One of my favorite things is when Oded Jackson asks him, because the whole time he's been like, "Can I order food? Can I order food?" Everywhere he's going, he knows he's got to pick up Eddie, but Eddie is eating pasta, and he orders it from the bar and goes, "Is there chicken at that?" And Aaron Ehrenreich is like, "No, man, it's plain." It's just fucking perfect. It's just really good. It's just in the pocket.
Yeah, they were gonna franchise this into a comedy with them, and they could, because miraculously they both make it to the end of the movie. I'd be there for it. They don't have to make like 6 of them, but if there's another one, I think they're very funny and both very watchable.
And if I was a person looking for a pair that can play off of one another, I would look to them immediately and just put them in a different property too, because they just have chemistry with one another. They're diametrically opposed physically, with Jackson being a rather imposing figure and Aaron Ehrenreich being this slight elf of a man. And yet it just whatever it is, it just works. Conversely, the next character we meet is also a fucking banger. And you want to know why? It's because Margot Martindale is in this fucking movie.
Character actor Margot Martindale.
I mean, if you want a ringer on the face of this planet Earth, Margot Martindale is pretty much the best you're ever going to get.
Have you ever seen a movie called Blow the Man Down?
No.
She is it's like an indie crime thriller.
Is this like a
drama?
fishing movie where like there's fishing involved in it, and someone
they do work? It does take place in a fishing.
Okay,
village,
I definitely have seen the trailer.
She's the villain in it, and it's so good. I highly the movie really fell under the radar because I think it kind of came out around in 2020. Kind of got lost in the shuffle.
Sure.
But if you get a chance, watch it because she is incredible in it.
Yes, I believe it because she's fucking amazing in everything that she does. Here she's playing a rather lovelorn ranger named Liz, who can be easily distracted if you just pay her a compliment. Her beloved, the man that she is fixated on, is the thing that's going to elevate her out of her humdrum existence on Blood Mountain, is played by Jesse Tyler Ferguson, wearing a different Charlie's Angels wig.
Yeah, it's some sort of long hair mullet, but not quite kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a shag do, I suppose. Something that is long enough to envelop his love of the environment, but not so long as to communicate that he's a hesher.
Yes, exactly.
The gang of pubes is our other set of characters. Three.
They're kind of teenagers,
losers.
but
yeah, no, they're long in the tooth for teenagers. They feel like meth burnouts who are in their mid-20s, who are referred to as kids because they've never done anything that would ever have any connection to adulthood.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. And so the gang of pubes is constantly trying to steal from the ranger station. And Sari comes into it in the middle of what should be Liz's opportunity to hop on the face of Jesse Tyler Ferguson and just smother him in love. But she has a missing child. And so Jesse Tyler Ferguson, who is oblivious to the fact that Margot Martindale is actually in love with him, says, "Of course, I will take you to where the falls are, and I will do my ecological study along the way, and everything will be fine," much to Margot's eternal hatred. While they leave, the gang of pubes attack David, who's just arrived and needs to take a piss. And we get a long sequence in which Jackson beats the holy hell out of 3 guys.
Yes.
And it's pretty well done. Like, you can tell that David is not someone who can be surprised too easily. He can obviously take care of himself. These 3 dipshits are either too high or too stupid to know that this is not a person they should fuck with. And unfortunately, David earns his first injury of many in this film when he discovers that there's a knife stuck in his back after he's beaten the holy hell out of these 3.
I mean, you know, who amongst us after a hard night hasn't like, oh, there's a knife back there?
Yeah, well, you know, you wake up in weird places. It makes sense. So now that Eddie wanders in and is like, what the fuck did you do? He's like, this was not something I decided to do. Please help me with the knife in my back. They take off up the trail, or at least start their journey when they discover that one of the gang of pubes, the aforementioned kid, actually knows where at least one duffel bag of cocaine is. So they decide they're just going to force him to show them where this at least one duffel bag is, so they don't come back empty-handed. They take off up a different trail towards Gazebo, and this is when Detective Bob arrives. He shuts his tiny dog inside his car, which to me is a bad idea. He doesn't even crack a window. And he takes off up a different side of the trail up Blood Mountain. And during all of this, we learn that Dee Dee and her friend Henry have also taken up to the trail. They've skipped school because Dee Dee would like to, quote unquote, paint the fountain, which is when you just throw paint into the falls. And that must be fun. I don't quite get that. Whatever it is, she wants to do it. And she doesn't care that her mother doesn't want to. So she's going to drag her friend Henry up there. They try cocaine by putting it in their mouth, which is a very 13-year-old thing to do, because you know what cocaine is by name, but you have no idea how it actually works.
Well, you always also see that like thing on like, yeah, they used to do on Miami Vice where they would like test the cocaine.
Exactly. Yes. Put a little in your gum, and if it numbs your gum, then you know that it's real. Of course, many an undercover cop will tell you that actually doesn't work. There are many numbing agents, so that's not a real great way to test cocaine. So there's a thing that I know. I don't know why, but I do. And by the time Ranger Liz and Peter and Sari get up to where the kids were, Dee Dee has been dragged off by a cocaine bear. We'll meet her later. And Henry has treed himself. And this is where Ranger Liz unfortunately takes a rather nasty gash to the ass.
Yes.
And we get a lot of Jaws-esque sequences where people are spread out and you can't see where the bear is because of underbrush. Ranger Liz is not shy about firing her firearm. And when she realizes that she's not going to be able to shoot this bear dead, she makes a run for it, leaving Peter and Sari and Henry behind.
Yeah, she's suddenly not in love anymore.
No, well, there's love, but there's also a line in which I'm not going to die for you. Pretty much comes across like, listen, you had your time, but now that 3 giant gashes have been placed in my ass, it's time to take care of number 1. So she takes off, much to everyone else's dismay. Peter trees himself in a different tree. He's got a bloody ankle, so he's been swiped at some point. And Henry looks across, and for whatever reason, everyone keeps blaming the kids for like giving the bear cocaine, as if that would be something they would know how to do. And Henry goes, well, at least we're up trees because bears can't climb. And Peter goes, oh, of course they can climb. And immediately the bear starts climbing up towards Henry. The only thing that saves him is that Peter has fallen on his face in a mound of cocaine, searching around for an exit route. And once the bear gets a sniff of the cocaine on Peter, he goes, well, I don't care about Henry, and takes off and goes from one tree to the next and manages to chomp Peter's leg full off before he falls to the ground, breaking his neck.
I mean, honestly, also that would also probably be how it would go.
The fun denouement to that, of course, is that the bear does a line of cocaine off of Peter's, separated leg.
Snorts it like slash snorting coke off a hooker's ass.
This is where I kind of want to shout out an element of this movie that is not getting nearly enough praise, and that is the soundtrack by Mark Mothersbaugh. Of course, the leader of Devo. He has been making movie soundtracks for quite some time now. And obviously he's a person you go to if you want that 80s synth sparkle, but he also layers in direct Godzilla flick motifs into it, and it fits like a glove. Like, it's a great, great score.
Yeah.
Ranger Liz makes her way back to the office where she finds the other 2/3 of the gang of pubes who have been recovering from their concussions of having their heads beaten against toilets. And once she discovers that they have not only been sitting in there waiting for an ambulance to arrive, they've also robbed her. She immediately yanks out that gun because she's fucking had it. And she yells, I would have been working at Yellowstone if it wasn't for you shits. And it's genuine. You can feel that resentment. She's bloodied from a bear attack. They're bloodied from David, but neither really knows that they're talking about two separate things. So when they hear something outside, she instructs one of the guys to open up a door so she can shoot their attacker. When they open up the door, one of the guy who's opened it sees the cocaine bear and is like, what? And leans his head into the shot, and she ends up shooting him through the back of the head.
Yeah, that's like probably like the most startling like death in the movie.
Yes, because it's completely unexpected. It comes out of nowhere, and it's simply because someone's was expecting to. It's the farce element of Cocaine Bear that weaves its way in, and the movie is cooking with gas at this point. They managed to get the door closed. They hear the bear roaming around, and once the door is closed, the third pube number 3, puts his back up against it, hoping that he can put enough pressure on there that the bear will not be able to make entry. And the bear just reaches through the door's window and takes his head off, making this death a hashtag get bunked.
That is a get bunked. It absolutely is a get bunked.
Yes, it's lovely when you see it. And it's organic. I didn't go in expecting it. It just happens. Now, later on, someone discovers that head in a bucket. And how did the bear get that head in a bucket, Gina?
I mean, I just assumed that it just dropped the head and it just happened to fall into a bucket.
I don't know. I'm beginning to wonder if that bear is related to anyone in the Voorhees family, because that's a very stagey head reveal that I just don't think a bear could actually do. Again, we do not come to Cocaine Bear for realism, but that might be pushing it, even though I enjoy it when it happens. Speaking of Friday the 13th, we get some first responders straight out of the Crystal Lake playbook.
But not perverts. They're not perverts.
Not perverts. Just uninterested in their jobs level ambulance drivers. We get Tom, played by TikTok sarcasm dispenser Scott Seiss, and Beth, who is resplendent in blue eyeshadow. Bob gets trapped underneath a door at one point as Beth is trying to get Ranger Liz out, and the Cocaine Bear is on top of that door. And even though Beth can see that Tom is very trapped, she still yells, "Get up!" Like, you're not helping.
There's a lot of comical incompetence in this movie.
It's kind of genius. I mean, the level the movie is working at this point is so high. It's so delirious, gassed up on its own juice, that By the time Depeche Mode's Just Can't Get Enough, it comes on the radio as they're trying to make their escape. It's just on a lunacy level that this is what you want out of this movie. This is truly, as we denoted earlier, like it is a real high point of the motion picture. This is what you're coming to see. And Elizabeth Banks absolutely gives the audience what they want.
The bear launches itself into the ambulance. I
Yes.
don't know how you just can't like cackle with glee at that.
Yeah. And the fact that he launches himself into the ambulance, manages to unhinge the now strapped in Liz, who's, in one of those stretchers on wheels. And so, of course, she flies the fuck out. It immediately tips over and grinds her face into the road, which the movie shows you.
Yeah.
Like, this is what you came to see. And the movie is absolutely going to deliver on this. Tom tries his best to make himself unavailable for getting et. It doesn't work out so well for him. And the cocaine bear ends up eating out the back of his skull with a very healthy crunch. And once Beth realizes this, she's no longer paying attention. She's driving so fast and so furious. She ends up careening directly into a tree. And of course, she did not put on a seatbelt. So she goes right through that windshield, defenestrating herself. Once again, making this a kill-by-kill classic. What do we like? Get bunked. Defenestration.
It's got it all.
If someone lit themselves on fire and walked, this would be an A+.
And if someone was in a wheelchair and got ate by a bear.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the stretcher on wheels.
Yeah, that counts. That counts.
Practically that.
Yeah, that counts.
That counts. So like it's like genetically predisposed for us to like it. There's a lot going for it here.
Yes.
Good news. Cocaine bear is fine. Does not seem to be rattled by the fact that it's in a car wreck, just like it's another fucking day. And this is where, for me, I have a little bit of trouble. It's not the sequence in which Detective Bob gets up on the roof. It's the sort of standoff that happens around it.
Yeah, that kind of slows things. That feels like it comes out of a different movie. Comes from a different movie.
And it feels like a bit of a old-fashioned stretch.
Yeah.
Because there's a little comedy sequence in which the bear passes out on top of Eddie. And it's a lot of reaction shots to a CGI bear and, negotiations and, standoffs with guns, and David gets shot through the hand. It does kind of feel like it just halts for this serious crime drama stuff, which is not what I signed up for. I know why it has to happen. And these are funny and interesting actors in which it happens around. It's where I sort of dip interest wise in this motion picture.
Yeah, you're not wrong. They had about an hour and 15 minutes of movie, a very entertaining movie, but needed to tack on maybe another 15 minutes.
Yes. And I just don't think the vocal the script fireworks, the lines that are being given to everyone meet the level of what it needs to get at. And also it's just coming down after the ambulance sequence. Like that high is so high. Whatever comes after it, there's going to be some, re-table setting, as it were. And this is one of those things where just, it all kind of has to happen, but I don't know that I necessarily agree it has to happen like this. Unfortunately, your favorite Detective Bob does not make it out of this situation, at least not that we see. He's shot through the gut by Sid, who's shown up. And even worse, when Detective Bob thinks he's been rescued by his old friend Reba, nope, she's on Sid's payroll. And so she's not there to rescue him.
Yeah, that kind of lost me a little bit too. I think because we didn't really spend enough time with. I know I said that this movie has a lot of characters, but with Reba, the reveal that she is working for Sid, it just kind of all right.
Yeah.
Like,
And it comes to nothing.
yeah, because
I just don't feel
it seems like she feels kind of guilty about it.
Yes.
So like, but at the same time, we really don't spend a lot of time with her as a character. So it isn't like, it doesn't feel like a bait and switch on the audience because we know nothing about her anyway.
Meanwhile, with Sari and Henry, they follow the trail that Dee Dee has left for them with things out of her backpack, and she's spread paint. She's leaving a trail of breadcrumbs. They come across Olaf, who's managed to survive his encounter with the cocaine bear. And they ask, do you know where the bear is? And he goes, no, but I know where it lives. And so he takes them to the bear's den, and he decides to stay outside, which is a bad idea for him, because we later learned that his entire face has been ripped off by Cocaine Bear.
That's how you go. Face ripped off.
Specifically how
I mean, your family doesn't have to pay for the Undertaker to lay you out.
I do wonder when this comes out on Blu-ray and whatnot, if we're going to get an unrated cut that actually has the face ripping off sequence, because according to Elizabeth Banks, they actually filmed it, and the movie was going to get an X if they kept it in.
Wow. So, okay.
Yeah. So she's like, I really wanted to do physical effects. I wanted to have gore, practical gore. And the nice thing about it is it looks great. And the bad thing about it looks so great that people think it's too much. And
I am so excited because as we record this, I saw a screening of Evil Dead Rise, and which is very fucking gory. Yeah. And I am very excited about the return of gore. If we can't have actual adult sex scenes, and goddamn it, we're gonna have gore.
Yes, I'm all for it. And I feel like everyone has kind of figured out that you have to have the mix. It can't all be CGI stuff. It just, gore looks better real. It just does.
Evil Dead Rise uses 1,100 gallons of fake blood.
It looks dipped. It looks like they brought blood by the gallon for sure. And I can't wait to see it. So finally, Sari is reunited with Dee Dee, who does not seem to be any worse for wear. We do learn that Cocaine Bear has 2 cubs who are also now addicted to cocaine. And this means that when they hear people rumbling outside, they try to go towards the back of the cave, and they learn the back of the cave is the secret falls where Dee Dee was going the entire time. Aha! Script writing, everybody. And David, Sid, Eddie, and Reba enter the den. They discover a loose duffel bag of cocaine. But Sid is not satisfied with just getting one. He wants everything. Reba says, I'm out. Sid wants to shoot her. David gets in the way. Again, this is not adding stakes to this. I don't quite understand the need for this. They're trying to humanize David, but I don't think David is a monster.
No.
So I don't know.
He's an anti-hero at best.
Yeah. So, Sid follows the trail of cocaine and also comes out on the other end of Secret Falls to find a mom and 2 children and another duffel bag of cocaine, which he orders Eddie and David to retrieve for him. And the cubs are going crazy. Their whales basically summon Cocaine Bear Mama, and she's on her way. And so the mom and kids jump off the waterfall into the river below. This leads a final confrontation between Eddie and his father, in which he says, listen, I didn't want to do this in the fucking first place. I'm out. You're on your own. And Sid tries to shoot them, and the bear manages to shoot David through the neck, or at least graze him. And is left alone, cornered between a giant cocaine-fueled bear and her 2 cocaine-fueled cubs. And he somehow manages to get himself hung by his own duffel bag straps, disemboweled, and then have those cubs eat his entrails.
I honestly hope that did he make it into the in memoriam cut of this year's Oscars, or would he be in next year's? I don't remember when he passed away.
I believe he was in the in memoriam.
Oh, so they didn't have that wasn't his final shot. His in memoriam shot being disemboweled by a bear cub.
His in memoriam came after, so there's that. I believe they showed him via Goodfellas.
Well, fine, okay.
Yeah, I guess if you have to have one film that defines you as an actor, you could do worse than Goodfellas. Although it would have been great to have him disemboweled and have his entrails eaten by bear cubs during that in memoriam. It's Roxy Roker's kid plays piano. David is injured, but Sari actually saves his life because she's a nurse above all, and they did kind of protect her children. So they kind of leave, on good terms. And the fact that we're just going to walk away from this and nothing will be discussed about how we interacted with one another in this cocaine fueled bear. Turns out that Reba takes the dog and gives it to Eddie, who is in love with this very frou-frou dog. Maybe this will help him with his grief.
I mean, dogs are good for that.
Do you have anything else that you desperately need to discuss when it comes to Cocaine Bear?
I mean, you basically explained the entire plot.
I did.
You left nothing out.
There's not that much.
No. It is a lot of fun. I don't want to say if you have low standards, because it's not that. It's just, if you take the stick out of your butt and just enjoy a movie, that doesn't have to be, capital A art or capital I important. It's a good time. Is it appropriate for
movie.
kids? No, it's pretty gruesome, but it's silly. It's not cynical. It's, I wouldn't put it at the same level. It's weird that as much as I enjoyed this movie, I really don't like movies like Sharknado. But this is what Sharknado is also just a poorly made movie. Whereas, this is a well-made movie and well acted.
And the only draw to Sharknado is how bad it is. Whereas the draw to Cocaine Bear is to watch A-level talent deal with a B-level movie, scenario. And it happens with aplomb and you have fun with it. That's what it comes down to. You're having fun with it, not making fun of it. And that's what Sharknado ends up becoming, or Santa Shark, which, Jesus Christ, if you want to pull like your brain out, one curve at a time, watch Santa Shark. It is, Jesus Christ, terrible. So that leaves us with choosing our own death venture, and that's where we decide of the deaths in this film. If we were to force ourselves to die in one of those ways, which one would we choose and why? Up for bid, we have knock yourself out on the threshold of a plane and fall to your death, be torn apart by a cocaine bear, lose your left leg below the knee, gutted while in tree, lose an arm, shot through the back of the head because you step in front of a ranger with a gun, get your head ripped off through the door. That's a bonus get bunked. Get lightly mauled, rescued by an ambulance, die with your face getting dragged across the road, bitten through the back of the skull, hit tree, defenestrate yourself through a windshield, get shot in the gut by Ray Liotta in a wig, face gets ripped off by a bear, or you're mauled by Cocaine Bear and both cubs, your entrails dragged out of your body and eaten. Once again, if you're going to have somebody alive and witness themselves being eaten, Ray Liotta is your number one go-to guy.
Amen.
Who will take his place?
Amen.
Which one will you choose and why? Gina Radcliffe.
I mean, the trying to jump out of an airplane, not that I ever would, but the jumping out of an airplane and hitting my head and knocking myself out in the process. That's extremely on brand for me. So I think that, the irony is if I was in a movie about a bear hopped up on cocaine, I probably wouldn't actually die via bear. I would get one of the auxiliary deaths, like getting hit in the head or accidentally shot, or driving and hitting a tree and going flying out the windshield. So any of those three.
I would definitely end up getting shot through the back of the head just because my curiosity and leaning my head into a dangerous situation I did not know was dangerous. That says me. That feels familiar.
So are you saying that if you were, I don't remember what your choose your own death venture was for Prophecy, but was it in fact sticking your head out and getting it, crunched off?
I mean, that sounds like it. I think both of us chose that sleeping bag death just because it's so spectacular.
That's true. Yeah.
That's my recollection. Yeah. We were just like, if you're going to die, being rocketed by a mutant bear in a sleeping bag and exploding in bloody feathers is a way to go. I mean, how that didn't end up on the Choose Your Own Death Venture shirt, probably just because motion is hard to convey. Yes. And I think for whatever reason, people were very excited by cutting your own hand off from slugs. So that made it in there. Choose Your Own Death Venture shirt, everybody. It's available for purchase. It's a very good looking shirt. You should buy it right now. So, Josh Hollis does all of our podcast artwork, joshhollis.com. And of course, Revenge Body Memphis at bandcamp.com is where you can find this theme and all of the remixes. Gina, where can people find you on these here internets?
I write about movies and television at thespool.net. By the time this goes live, I will have written about Evil Dead Rise, which is fucking amazing. I also write about movies on a newsletter at Substack. That's GinaWatchesThings.substack.com. And for however long it lasts, I am on Twitter under Gina Does Things.
Do it today. People, check it out. We're on all the socials, so you can find us there. We got a Facebook group. But more importantly, now more than ever, join us on Patreon, where we're doing all sorts of fun stuff. We have a chat by chat that you can listen to. It's just us yakking for an hour about things that we would normally yak about off air. We do it on air just because it's a fun thing to do. We do an extra bonus episode. So if you want more Animal Attacks April, we have a very funny, goofy, sweaty, gin-soaked giant snake movie called Spasms, which several people get bitten by a giant snake and then they just balloon up until they explode. That's what that movie is. It's a good time for all. Of course, at the end of the month, we'll be talking about a Friday the 13th movie that you can watch a Friday the 13th and hear us as a commentary track over it. That's available to you right now at our patreon.com/killbykill. But that does it for today. Don't worry, folks. The body count will continue. For myself and for Gina, goodbye, everybody.
Bye.